Retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis is back with us tonight to comb through some of this, of what we're seeing. Colonel, Putin went hard on the West, hard on Nazis, not so heavy on we won, this is our victory again. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we had expected. I mean, I think the last time I was on your show, I think we actually talked about what he might say in there, which the expectation is he didn't have anything to claim as a victory. And even though, you know, they've done a lot of misinformation, you can't claim victory to your own people when they see there's nothing to claim victory for. So I expected him, and it sounds like he did, to focus on, you know, the theme of victory, to tie together the big victory of the Second World War with an eventual victory he's promising in the Ukraine, and also the sacrifice that's necessary to continue that process going through there. And he also said that, hey, this is not going to be fast. This is going to take some time. So he's preparing people that this is not something that's going to be over with pretty quick. And I think that he's right on that.
He does seem to be. Yeah, and, you know, to be upfront with people and acknowledge some of the losses they've had, that took some by surprise. But then again, he has not been bashful in the past about saying something that is blatantly untrue and just, you know, daring people to challenge him. So on the other side of the border, Volodymyr Zelensky, he said Ukraine is absolutely going to win. And he wasn't alone in saying that. Here's French President Emmanuel Macron.
What is our goal? Faced with the unilateral decision of Russia to invade Ukraine and aggress its people, to ensure this war concludes as soon as possible, to do everything to ensure that Ukraine will survive. Russia will never win.
Russia will never win. For months, Colonel, you've been telling me the West is just too rosy on this. Ukraine really cannot win, probably especially in the East. Does it seem more possible now, at least?
No, it doesn't. And look, I understand the incentive and the motivation and the desire to say this. And really, almost what can leaders say? I mean, are they going to get up in front of people and say, yeah, we really can't win. We're going for a stalemate. I mean, that doesn't play well with any audience, especially when you're trying to get your people to fight and the West to provide some arms. But we need to be very, very candid and very sober about understanding what is and isn't possible. And look, I published something a couple of days ago that went into great detail explaining why the absolute best case scenario for even the possibility that Ukraine could go to an offensive and still start driving Russia out of the hundreds of square miles that they currently possess within Ukraine would be at best a year, and probably more than that. And even then, the chances of success are very low, which is why I remain stout that we need to put as much effort on getting the parties to have a negotiated settlement as we do providing more weapons, because that has the best chance to end the war soonest. Mm.
That's interesting because, yeah, if it drags on a year plus, you have to wonder how many times can the president go back and say, we need 30 billion more, we need 40 billion more. Will the appetite continue? Now, in the eastern region...
And plus, I'm looking at how many of those people in Ukraine are going to die in the next year, because the war's not going to stop. And that's my biggest concern.
The human toll, yeah. So the eastern region, that right now is the worst of it. But that was the region that was supposed to be the layup, the easy win for Russia. Like, okay, let's get to the part that we know and we can slice right off. It hasn't been easy. What is the problem in Russia's military?
Yeah, it's not. And I don't know why anyone would ever have thought that the Donbas was going to be easy, because the Ukraine had 8 years to build in very elaborate and successful defensive fortifications. And that was always going to be hard. In fact, the only one thing you might say is, why did Russia only have one of its 4 axes going into the Donbas? Because it was going to be so hard. You know, now then they've kind of fixed that original problem, and now then they put in all of their effort, or at least the vast majority, into that. But it's also important to recognize that Russia is having success, and they took Popasnaya in the northern part of the Donbas, and then now that they're in the Severodonetsk, and then the Lysychansk is right next to that, and then they're making progress in both of those. If they continue to make this incremental progress with all of this heavy artillery you're talking about, and you showed a while ago, it's just not clear that the Ukraine can continue to stand up under that bombardment. And it's just going to be a tough slog.
I see. I feel like every time we talk, we get a reality check. On the other hand, you listen to people in Kyiv and they're saying, we're not giving up. So if it's been anything, it's been unpredictable. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, I appreciate you coming back once again to help us make heads or tails of this.